Picture the heavy wrought iron gates of Buckingham Palace.
Right.
6 years ago, they slammed shut behind Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and I mean, it sent absolute shockwaves through the entire world.
Oh, yeah. Completely defined a whole era.
Exactly. It defined the era of Megxit. It was the ultimate break, like the absolute point of no return. But right now, and this is crazy, the cameras are flashing again.
Yeah,
The crowds are just frozen in disbelief because the ultimate Hollywood twist is unfolding right before our eyes. The question everyone is suddenly asking, are the Sussexes pulling an Uno reverse on Megxit?
It's the question of the year, really.
It is. So, welcome to StarScope Report. I'm so glad you're joining us because today we are unpacking a massive, a truly tectonic shift in the celebrity and royal ecosystem. Every time we do this, our mission is to dive deep into Hollywood drama, celebrity shakeups, and those viral scandals, just to uncover the real stories behind the fame.
And today's stack of sources is, it's pretty wild.
Oh, it's insane. We're looking at breaking headlines, secret inside palace reports, and this is my favorite part, a highly detailed academic paper from London University that will basically reframe everything you thought you knew about this family.
Yeah, because the overarching narrative for years has been, this story of permanent exile. Like, they were just gone.
Right. The outcast royals.
Exactly. But when you look at the actual mechanics of what is happening right now, you realize this isn't just about some family feud anymore.
No, not at all.
We are watching a highly calculated, super high-stakes negotiation. It involves global branding, really intense security threats, and a multi-billion-dollar corporate machine that is just desperately trying to protect its market share.
Which brings us to the event that practically broke the internet earlier this month. The secret tea party.
Oh, the Highgrove meeting, yes.
Yeah, a secret, highly secured tea party at Highgrove House. King Charles, who, let's remember, is still navigating his cancer treatment, alongside Queen Camilla, actually hosted Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet.
Yeah, the report said Charles basically just really wanted to see his grandkids. He apparently made this comment that blood is blood.
Which is a huge shift.
It is. This was their first real in-person meeting in years, like moving way beyond just staring at each other on FaceTime screens. They actually sat down for just over an hour.
Okay, but wait, I have to jump in right here because the logistics of this just blow my mind. How did they even get into the country safely?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right, because Harry lost that massive, highly publicized court battle to keep his automatic royal security detail. And we know from the reports that his privately hired security team recently found proof of, 6 distinct terrorist plots against him?
Yeah, 6 plots. It's really serious.
So if he doesn't have state-sponsored protection, how is a high-profile visit like this physically possible? Like, do they just sneak in?
Well, the security issue isn't just some, minor background detail. It is literally the central leverage point of this entire relationship right now.
How so?
You have to understand how British security actually works. Private bodyguards, I don't care how elite or how expensive they are, they do not have the jurisdiction to carry firearms in the UK.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Right. They can't carry guns, they don't have access to state intelligence, and they certainly don't have the authority to just close down public roads. So it's not simply a matter of Harry just writing a bigger check for more private muscle.
Okay, so to move safely through the UK with known, verified terrorist threats against him, he basically fundamentally requires the cooperation of the British state.
Exactly. Without the state, he's a sitting duck.
So the palace essentially had to open the gates and just grant him that state power just to make this meeting happen at all.
They did. But, and this is crucial, let's not view this purely as some warm, fuzzy act of familial love. The reports actually indicate that they received a quote-unquote considerable upping of security for this specific Highgrove visit.
Okay.
But it came with a massive, absolutely non-negotiable ultimatum.
The catch. There's always a catch.
Always. The palace instituted a strict, ironclad pact of silence. The directive to Harry's camp was absolute. Like, if any emotional details, any behind-the-scenes gossip from this hour-long meeting leaks to the press,
It's over.
it is game over. Back to square one. The bridge is burned forever.
Wow. It's basically a PR hostage situation then.
That's one way to put it.
I mean, the palace is basically saying, look, we will give you the physical security you need to literally exist in this country without being in danger.
Yeah.
But in exchange, you completely surrender your ability to monetize your connection to us through the media.
It's a very cynical way to look at it, but yeah, strategically, you are spot on. It is a total lockdown on information. They are testing the trust between the two camps.
Testing the waters to see if they can actually keep their mouths shut.
Exactly. The palace is strictly handling all queries. They are issuing no detailed statements whatsoever. They are deliberately spamming the tabloid ecosystem of content just to see if the Sussexes can actually play by the traditional rules for once.
That is wild. But, while this emotional family reunion is super compelling on its own, the real reason they might be returning involves a failing American dream and a major lifestyle brand in crisis. And that's coming up next, so stick with us.
It gets so much more complicated.
It really does. And hey, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and this kind of behind-the-scenes PR breakdown, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and the business mechanics we're about to get into are just wild.
Yeah, the business side is where it really falls apart.
Yeah.
Because that intense need for top-tier security at Highgrove highlights a massive problem for them back in America.
Paying for that kind of elite private security in the States costs millions. Like millions of dollars every single year.
Yes, and to pay for it, you need a thriving business. But right now, the sources are pointing to the harsh reality that their quote-unquote American dream is hitting a wall.
Yeah, the headline I saw actually said, the American dream might not be all that it was cracked up to be.
The financial reality is definitely catching up to the narrative. Remember when they first moved to California?
Oh yeah, it's a massive deal.
Right. The strategy was to capitalize on their global fame to secure these massive independent fortunes. They landed the huge Netflix deals, the Spotify podcasts.
But the initial shock value of Megxit has kind of worn off now, hasn't it?
Exactly. You can only tell your escape story so many times before the public is like, okay, but what else do you have? The public demands something new.
And according to Harry's friends, the sentiment is shifting. Reports are saying he's feeling unwelcome and like an outcast in America. There's a quote that says, "England is where Harry's heart has always lain."
Which brings us to Meghan's motive in all this. We have to look at the business reality of her lifestyle brand as ever.
Right, which she announced with massive fanfare back in March 2025.
Yes, but the reports we are looking at from early 2026 show that the brand is seriously struggling. Like, visits to the online shop dipped significantly.
I look at this like a Hollywood reboot trying to survive without the original IP.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, like you take a massive historic franchise, the royal family, you strip away all the main characters, you remove the castles, the pageantry, the history, and you try to sell a spin-off based entirely on the rebel characters living in Montecito.
Right.
She's trying to push these fresh lifestyle projects, but she absolutely needs that royal stardust sprinkled on her brand to make it work as a top-tier luxury influencer. Without the crown, she's just, another celebrity selling jam and yoga mats.
The Hollywood spin-off analogy makes a lot of sense on the surface, but here is where that comparison actually falls apart a bit.
Okay, tell me.
In Hollywood, a spin-off can exist completely independently of the original. Like, Frasier didn't need Cheers to keep succeeding.
True, Frasier did fine on his own.
But the Sussex's entire brand identity is literally built on a title, the Duke and Duchess. The sources explicitly state that Meghan's branding is quote-unquote regal by Hollywood standards.
Regal.
Yes, and you cannot maintain a regal, aristocratic brand aesthetic if you are permanently at war with the actual aristocracy.
That makes so much sense. The consumer disconnect just becomes way too large.
Exactly. So the business and her relationship with the royals aren't just loosely related. They are entirely symbiotic. They need each other.
Okay, so if the American influencer dream is cooling down and Harry is feeling like an outcast, they obviously need a bridge back. But they can't exactly just move back into Frogmore Cottage and pretend the Oprah interview never happened.
Right, they can't just rewind the clock, which is why this latest development is so strategic. Sources confirm they have established a literal and figurative stepping stone, a house in Portugal.
Yeah, not just any house, but one reportedly being decorated by Soho House, which feels just so intensely Hollywood.
Oh, it is the perfect physical manifestation of their brand dilemma. Soho House represents exclusive, modern, transatlantic networking.
It's chic, it's super private, it's celebrity adjacent.
Precisely. But geographically, establishing a base in Portugal keeps one foot firmly on the right side of the pond. Frogmore Cottage was a grace and favor home. It belonged to the crown. They didn't own it.
So they could be evicted, basically.
Exactly. But this property in Portugal represents independent wealth. It gives their kids Archie and Lilibet a chance to be close to their royal European roots, and it puts Harry within striking distance of London for these quick meetings.
Right, like the Highgrove Tea Party. He can just pop over.
Exactly, without committing to a full-time return to the hostile British tabloids.
Wow. It's almost like a PR laundering machine. They get to be, quote-unquote, European royals without having to actually be working British royals subject to the palace rules.
That's a great way to frame it.
But how does the rest of the family view this? Because Prince William has to be watching this transatlantic maneuvering and wondering, like, what is the end game here?
Oh, the reports suggest William is highly unsettled by all of this. And honestly, for good reason. Trust doesn't just magically reappear after 1 hour of tea.
Definitely not.
During their recent UK visit, Harry also made a highly publicized trip to Princess Diana's grave. And sources claim there is a deep fear among the core royals, particularly William, that these UK visits are essentially just content-gathering missions.
Wait, like scouting for a reality show, you think they'd weaponize a visit to their mother's grave for Netflix?
Well, it's not about a trashy reality show. It's about narrative control. Next year is a major anniversary for Princess Diana.
Who? Right.
If you are producing premium documentaries for streaming giants, what is more valuable than exclusive, highly emotional footage of a royal return?
Nothing. It's gold.
Exactly. The fear within the palace is that every interaction is being cataloged for future monetization. If Harry and Meghan are building this independent European base in Portugal, they need content to fuel that brand.
And the palace is absolutely terrified of being the unwitting supplier of that content.
Bingo.
Okay, that fear of being exploited makes perfect sense, especially when you reframe how the palace actually operates. And later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking academic twist nobody saw coming. We're going to explain why the royals are acting less like a family and more like a ruthless mega corporation.
It really changes everything about how you view them.
It does. This is the most fascinating piece of research in our stack today. We usually tend to look at the royals as a very complicated, slightly dysfunctional family.
The ultimate family drama.
Right. But the Lund University teaching notes we have argue that they aren't really a family at all, not fundamentally. They are a ruthless, multi-billion-dollar corporate entity. They literally call themselves the firm.
Yes, and the Lund University paper breaks this down using something called the Corporate Brand Identity and Reputation Matrix, or CBIRM.
Which sounds like super dense academic jargon, I know.
It does, but it is actually the perfect decoder ring for understanding the entire Megxit crisis. It strips away all the messy emotion and looks at the monarchy purely as an organizational structure.
Okay. Let me try to put this into perspective for you listening at home. Imagine you are the CEO of a 1,000-year-old legacy company. Let's say Queen Elizabeth was the former CEO, and now King Charles has taken over the boardroom.
Okay, tracking.
The royal household, so the private secretaries, the communications directors, they're your executive board, and the actual family members, William, Kate, Harry, they are essentially your highly paid brand spokespeople.
Exactly. And your target demographic, your customers, are the citizens of the UK and the broader Commonwealth.
Right. So if we look at it through that corporate lens, let me ask you this. Was Meghan's entry into the family basically just a highly publicized corporate merger that horribly clashed with the legacy workplace culture?
That is exactly the thesis the researchers present. It was a merger that went terribly wrong.
Wow.
But to understand why the clash was so violent, you have to understand the specific type of corporate culture the monarchy uses. The paper defines it as a quote-unquote communal culture.
Communal, what does that mean in this context?
Well, this isn't your standard Silicon Valley tech startup where everyone is encouraged to disrupt things and innovate. A communal culture is defined by extremely high solidarity, rigid formality, and an intense, unwavering sense of duty and stewardship to the brand's history.
It's a culture built entirely on predictability.
Yes, because their entire product is stability.
Right. They don't sell software or cars. They sell the idea that no matter what happens in politics or the economy or the world, the crown endures.
Precisely. And a culture built on that kind of extreme, centuries-old predictability is virtually impermeable to outsiders. It demands total assimilation.
And then in walks Meghan Markle.
Right.
An American actress, an entrepreneur, a woman with a completely different worldview built on self-advocacy and modern PR tactics. It wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was a fundamental threat to the brand's core operating system.
Right. And from that perspective, Megxit wasn't just a sad family dispute. It was a rogue action by key brand spokespeople.
It was a walkout.
Think about how they quit. They bypassed the CEO. They completely bypassed the executive board, and they issued their resignation via an Instagram post.
I still can't believe they did it that way.
In corporate terms, they shattered the image of internal stability and created massive stakeholder dissonance. The customers suddenly didn't know what the brand stood for anymore. Are they a modern, inclusive institution, or are they a rigid, archaic boys' club? Matrix just broke.
So King Charles, sitting at the head of the boardroom today, is facing a massive corporate dilemma with his potential return. How does a legacy CEO handle rogue executives who suddenly want to negotiate a part-time return?
It's a tough spot. The Lund University analysis lays out two distinct paths for the crown here. They have to choose between a market-oriented approach and a brand-oriented approach. And honestly, the choice they made is going to define the monarchy for the next century.
Okay, let's explore both of those. If Charles takes the market-oriented approach, what does that actually look like on the ground?
A market-oriented approach means reacting to your consumers. It means acknowledging that modern times demand flexibility. If a large segment of the global public loves Harry and Meghan and really wants to see them involved, the crown adapts.
Okay, so they bend the rules.
Right. They break with rigid tradition, they allow a new type of daughter brand to exist within the firm, and they let the Sussexes redefine their roles, perhaps working half in and half out from that Portugal base.
But the danger there is that you alienate your core demographic. The traditionalists in the UK who believe duty is absolute, they would view that as a massive weakness.
Oh, totally.
It would look like the CEO just caving to the demands of a rogue employee.
Which brings us to the alternative, the brand-oriented approach.
Protecting the trademark at all costs.
Yes. The brand-oriented approach means reaffirming that your identity is built on tradition, duty, and sacrifice. It means telling the public and the Sussexes that if you cannot adhere to the rigid structure of the communal culture, you cannot be a part of the corporation, period.
No half in, half out.
None. No leveraging the royal title for Netflix deals.
And connecting the dots back to that secret Highgrove Tea Party we talked about earlier. And that strict pact of silence that looks entirely like a brand-oriented power play.
Oh, absolutely.
The CEO is essentially saying, we control the flow of information. You don't speak unless the board authorizes it. They are enforcing the corporate rules to protect the legacy rather than bending to accommodate Harry's modern media strategy.
I would argue it's maybe slightly more nuanced than that. It's definitely a brand-oriented approach, but with a tiny, highly regulated testing ground.
Like a probationary period.
Right. Charles isn't shutting the door completely, but he's demanding the Sussexes prove they can exist within the corporate structure before he even considers any sort of public integration.
This reframes everything for me. When you read the tabloids, it's always framed as a father crying over his estranged son or two brothers at war. But really, it's a CEO trying to manage a PR crisis that threatens the global stock of his company.
And we really cannot overstate how valuable that stock is. The value of the crown isn't just measured in real estate and castles. It's tied directly to the geopolitical identity of an entire nation.
That is such a good point. And hey, if you're finding this corporate breakdown of the royals as mind-blowing as I am, definitely hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next in our explorations of fame and power. Because we dive into stuff like this all the time.
There is always more beneath the surface.
There always is.
Yeah.
Which perfectly sets up the final piece of our puzzle today. And it's a concept I really want you, the listener, to chew on. Because this story is moving incredibly fast, and the Sussexes are not just sitting around waiting for Charles to make a decision.
Definitely not.
Recently, Harry made a massive, complete surprise appearance at the Time 100 Sports Gala in New York.
Stepping right back into that highly visible global influencer role, but on an American stage.
Right. And he used that stage to give a very public update on the family. He told guests that King Charles is, quote-unquote, doing great with his treatment.
It's very casual.
Yeah, he warmly mentioned that Archie and Lilibet are growing like weeds. He even playfully lamented England's World Cup defeat to Argentina. To me, that is just a masterclass in PR maneuvering.
Oh, it was brilliant.
He is projecting warmth, family connection, and British pride, but he's doing it completely outside the control of the Buckingham Palace press office.
It is strategic independence. He is demonstrating to the world that he can still wield the power of his royal identity without needing the institution's permission to speak. And this ties directly into a concept from the academic research called place branding.
Place branding. Break the mechanics of that down for us.
So the global reputation, the soft power of the United Kingdom, is inextricably linked to the royals. When people around the world think of the UK, they think of the crown.
Obviously.
The royal family is essentially the primary ambassador for the UK's brand worldwide. They sell rich culture, tourism, stability, history.
So if Harry and Meghan successfully establish this highly visible dual-continent presence,
Follow that thought.
if they use that Soho house-decorated compound in Portugal to maintain their European royal aesthetic while heavily leveraging their massive Hollywood connections in California, couldn't they accidentally, or maybe even intentionally, create a rival franchise of the British monarchy?
That is the ultimate institutional nightmare, a transatlantic shadow monarchy.
Exactly, a shadow monarchy.
Yeah.
Imagine a modern, Americanized spin-off franchise that actually competes globally with the original Buckingham Palace brand.
The contrast would be staggering.
Buckingham Palace represents the old world. Rigid duty, silence, never complain, never explain. The stiff upper lip. But this Montecito Portugal Sussex brand represents the new world. Mental health advocacy, celebrity networking, emotional transparency, and massive streaming deals.
If the Sussexes can successfully pull off that balancing act, they effectively dilute the monopoly the firm has on royal influence. Think about it. If you are a global charity or hosting a massive corporate summit, do you want the traditional, slightly stuffy working royal to show up? Or do you want the glamorous, Hollywood-adjacent royal who brings Netflix cameras in tow?
I mean, the choice is pretty obvious for most brands. It fundamentally threatens the firm's market share of global attention. And I think it proves that the narrative of Megxit is far from over. It's not a closed chapter. It is just entering a highly calculated, ruthlessly competitive new phase.
Absolutely.
The heavy iron gates of Buckingham Palace might have slammed shut 6 years ago, but Harry and Meghan aren't just standing outside knocking anymore. They're finding a way to broadcast their own signal right over the walls, and they're building their own rival castle on the shores of Portugal. It is an absolute PR nightmare for the traditionalists, or a modern branding masterclass, depending entirely on which side of the gates you are standing on.
It's a massive high-wire act. And the next year, especially leading up to the Diana anniversary, is going to show us whether their American influencer dream can actually survive on a diet of carefully rationed royal stardust. Or if the ancient corporate machine of the monarchy will simply freeze them out of the market entirely.
It's going to be wild to watch. You've been listening to StarScope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.